Welcome back, welcome back. Well, in the United States, the Democratic Party is still in a bit of a mess. Hillary refuses to go, and Barack Obama cannot claim the nomination until she does go. So how long can it continue? One seasoned Democrat watcher, indeed perhaps the most seasoned Democrat watcher, is the novelist, essayist, polemicist, and general all-round Renaissance man, Gore Vidal. He's with me now. Welcome, Gore.
Thank you, David, for that kind introduction to me and an unworthy party.
And with the unworthy party, though, you have endorsed the idea of Barack Obama, so you have hopes.
I don't. Hopes is something we're not allowed to have in the U.S. because something always goes wrong. We have mad presidents, and we don't have any way to check them out to make sure whether they are okay up here. Yeah. And we had this one. I'm a wartime president. I'm a wartime president. He goes around shouting. Well, he's not one. He starts wars, but he's not supposed to. Only Congress can declare war, and he wanted wartime. He'd been, he knows nothing, so he was told Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt were our two great presidents, and they were wartime presidents. You're going to be a wartime president, too.
Well, a lot of reputations were built on wars, as you say.
And indeed they were.
And it's a requirement for people's legacy, perhaps. But I mean, in this particular case of war in recent years, one of the interesting points that you made in one of your interviews this week was you implied that America should never really get involved in foreign wars, and you implied that you thought probably America's involvement in the First and the Second World War was a mistake.
Oh, yes, I do. What we've done, I don't know any example in history such as what the U.S. has done. Other countries evolve into empires, they get more properties, they get more wealth, they get more this, more that. And they have an orderly progression into a future. We went back. We're working in the Stone Age now. Murdering people that we don't know anything about and never will learn because we're too important to read books, so we don't know anything. We're going through a phase that England must have gone through in the 14th century, Agincourt around there, where you go abroad to grab some French territories, or the other way around. And this is perverse. Rioting an understatement, but it is very perverse. A highly successful, modernized country with all the wealth on earth at one point, now gone, decides it's going to conquer the Middle East in the interests of democracy. Well, we had a lunatic president called Woodrow Wilson who was going to make the world safe for democracy. Nobody knew what he meant. He didn't know. He loved the lake poets. That's really about all we know about him. He just liked to go up there and read poetry. And the troops followed and didn't read so much. But there are a lot of white graves.
And what about, though, the Second World War, for instance? I mean, if America was not involved in that foreign war, Hitler would have prevailed, and that would not have been a good thing.
Well, of course it's not a good thing, but simultaneously, we're not the world's policemen. There was a great phrase around 1939, 1940, around Washington, where I grew up, let the British get their own chestnuts out of the fire. This is what isolationists said. You make a mess in Europe, don't expect us to join you in the mess. It was a fascinating time, because around 1940, every bright Britisher that I have since met in my life was in Washington, trying to influence our government to go to war on their side. You go to the movies, what did you get? Greer Garson as Mrs. Miniver. Wonderful woman, fighting for the hearthland. And it was just a totally loony period. We had no national interest. Hitler was not a good person. But we didn't know then. How did we know? We knew nothing about his plans for Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, whatever he was up to. Nor was it necessarily our job to be policemen. So the old America, which was based upon minding our own business, realizing our modest place in the world as a mercantile republic, out for business, that was all.
And why do you think Barack Obama, for instance, will be a better president than Hillary Clinton or John McCain?
I don't, because I prefer Hillary Clinton to him, and I've supported her all along. Now I've just, gone into retreat over the subject. She has lost, as simple as that. He's an attractive candidate. He's terribly intelligent, it would seem. His speech on religion and race was, masterful. But the presidency is a lot more than making speeches. And he won't know what to do. Not that that's so important. We've got a couple of presidents who didn't know anything, and they staggered through all right. But here we are now with, we have no money left. We're supposed to build up by 1 million men the so-called volunteer army, which it isn't. It's a bribed army. And we're supposed to be doing that. We haven't got the money to pay for them. So we're out of the world empire business. And I say, thank God.
And speaking from the silent, speaking from the silent majority, the question I often ask is, are you proud to be an American?
No, I'm ashamed. And every proper American is ashamed of what we've done at Abu Ghraib and what we've done here, there. We kidnap people. I just came from Milan. We'd kidnap somebody and shipped him off in a trunk to Cairo, where he can be tortured at the vice president's pleasure. The vice president is crazy, and the president is, there's a wonderful word, deficiente, as the Italians call it. He's deficient in brains.
Well, would you feel any better about America if they did elect a black man? Would that be a sign of some progress, if not among the leaders, among the people?
Yes. And that's why I don't think he's sufficiently experienced for the job, but I'd rather have him learn about it as he goes along. You see, this is a historic revolution in the United States. The slave race has risen, and now they're going to be heard from. And I've always been extremely pro-black. I think it's time that over half the nation should be heard from politically.
Well, it's a joy to see you as ever, and we look forward to these continued visits in the years that lie ahead. Gore Vidal, ladies and gentlemen. Well, now, this week, Israel and Syria publicly acknowledged that they are in peace talks. The two nations have officially been at war for the last 60 years, but now it looks like Israel might be ready to relinquish the Golan Heights, an area that it seized from Syria in the closing moments of the 1967 war. In return, Israel will expect Syria to loosen its ties with Iran. But that's all just the beginning. I'm joined now today by Jihad Makdissi, the official spokesman of the Syrian embassy in London, to find out more about this potential breakthrough. Jihad, welcome. And you were just explaining to me that jihad does not necessarily mean holy war.
Of course. You can do jihad to win the heart of the girl you love.
Oh, I see. So that's fortunate for you that it has these
of course.
wider... Anyway, we're here to talk about the end of war today. But first of all, they say in these reports, which took the world by storm, really, but that these talks have been going on for about a year. Is that true? Is that right?
Yeah, the president of Syria, even less than 2 months ago, he gave an interview for a Qatari newspaper, and he confirmed that we are having indirect peace talks with the Israeli government, brokered by the Turkish government. And really, we highly appreciate the real peacemaker in the region, the Prime Minister of Turkey.
He's the real peacemaker in this particular situation. And obviously, it's been going on for a year, so presumably, in the eyes of both sides, there has been some progress.
Actually, what we are aiming to achieve through this indirect peace talks is to pave the way to the next phase, which is the direct negotiation between Syria and Israel. And the philosophy of this ongoing indirect negotiation is the implementation of the United Nations resolution relevant to the conflict in the region, and the formula, of course, land for peace.
Land for peace. And when might that next stage from the informal, indirect talks to the direct talks, when might that be?
Well, we are cautiously optimistic. I mean, we are ready to achieve peace when the Israeli are ready to respond to the requirements of peace. What Syria is asking is very legitimate and simple. Once the Israeli are ready, we are extending our hands for them.
And what do both sides need? We said in the introduction there that Israel might want loosening links between Syria and Iran. And then there's the question of Hezbollah. That's a key.
This is a very interesting question and important question. Well, Syria is a sovereign nation and we do not accept any precondition. This is the principle. But talking about Iran, the Israeli should stop demonizing the Iranian and take advantage. I invite them to take advantage, them and in the Western world also, of the Syrian friendship with the Iranian government to try to clear up any potential misunderstanding towards what people say illegitimate or legitimate aspiration of Iran in the region. As for Hezbollah, the understanding of Syria is that the Hezbollah is not a fan of war in the region. So he doesn't want to wage war against neighboring countries. And he has no exterritorial aspiration. All what Hezbollah needs is to liberate the remaining of the Lebanese territories, and also he has another issue with the Israeli, which is the Lebanese prisoners in the Israeli jails. So if the Israeli are genuine about comprehensive and just peace in the region, it's very easy to solve the thing with Hezbollah.
And what about the question of the Golan Heights? It would seem that the Golan Heights obviously are central to all of this. Do you foresee a situation where the Golan Heights could be back in Syrian hands in 12 months?
Let me put it this way. The matter of the Golan Heights, it's a Syrian right and it's unnegotiable. So, and I can tell you that in year 2000, the fate of the negotiation broke down because the Israeli refused to fully withdraw from the Golan Heights. So this is not on the table. We are not negotiating our rights. We are negotiating the nature of peace.
And when you go to that part of the world, though, the Golan Heights does have an incredible strategic hold over Israel, really, in terms of its proximity, doesn't it?
But Israel, in the same time, they don't need the geographical factor to defend their land. It's a nuclear state. They do possess more than 300 nuclear warheads. So this is very minimal, and it sees a pretext to evade from the requirements of peace.
Well, we'll see where it goes from here. Thank you very much for outlining. We look forward to having an update from you in the near future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
The sooner the better, obviously, for both sides. Thank you very much indeed. In a minute, I'll be joined by the 3 times Oscar-nominated film director, James Ivory. Merchant Ivory, remember that name. After the news headlines.